And so we talked about what can we do to further advance this area, and one of those being we wanted to build something that would have an impact on clubs, something that would help clubs to look more professional, but also kind of hip, cool, whatever you want to call it, to try and start attracting some of the younger crowd that seems to be falling away from this. So there was a number of things that we wanted to do from the club aspect, but then we're like, well, how do we get it out there? And then that's how we kind of talked about, well, let's look at building a collection cataloging software as an initial means to get people into the software, to learn about it, and then use that as a platform to promote some of the club aspects. So the collection management stuff is the stuff that I built first. So I'll dig in there a little bit, and then we'll talk about the club aspect of it. But I also want to mention that if you have ways or different ideas, thoughts about how tech could be utilized within geology, I'm very open to implementing additional features. Like your very own Jennifer Weiss. She actually, how I met Thomas was through her and a conversation that we had about being able to have a place for her to capture. And I think, are you guys seeing my screen now?
Yes, we should be good.
Okay. A place where she was talking about a project where she wanted to catalog all of the museums that have geology related, wrong URL. Geology related departments within them. So she has spent countless hours actually going out, scraping the internet and pulling together all of these different museums from across the US. So you can filter it out by state. So we'll grab Virginia. We can see what she grabbed from Virginia. And then clicking into any of these is going to pull up more information about the museum, where it's at, the URL, and that kind of information. And then my conversations with Thomas actually started as I was building out the club directory, and I tried to go through and I scraped the internet for as many clubs as I could find. I thought it was kind of cool to see all of the different logos of all the different clubs in one place. I know I personally had not seen that, but it's the same thing with any of these. We'll go search by state. We'll grab Virginia. So you can go in and it's going to have lots of information about the club specifically. And so my idea here is that if you are a club admin, you could actually take control of your club's profile within the site and start to use some of those management tools, which I'll get into here in a little bit. I will go ahead and log in. So upon login, you're going to be met with a dashboard that has information about your collection, which you have cataloged, and you can see right here is where I did most of the entry of my collection, and then it kind of tails off, obviously, and then as we purchase some more, it continues to rise slowly but surely. Also, is you can join clubs within, if you're a user of the software, you can join your club's profile through here, and it will let you know of upcoming events for clubs that you're a member in. And from the specimen perspective, I'll click into my catalog. There's a number of things you'll see here. Number one, I built a specimen import, so you can download a template. And I know a lot of people currently track their collections in spreadsheets. So you can actually come into this tab here, download a template file, essentially copy and paste your columns into mine, and then upload that file, and it'll automatically set up your collection. So it's a quick way to get started. Obviously, it doesn't have the images indexed, but that just takes a little bit of time as you photograph and add those images. One other thing I was met with was the number of fields for a specimen. There's a lot of people that want a lot of information, and then there's a lot of people that don't. And they pretty much just want a short and sweet form to fill out. So as you'll see here, I have a lot of information fields that can be filled out. But if you're one that feels there's a lot here that you're never going to use, there's the little notice up at the top that we can click to go in, set up our profile exactly how we want it. So we can say which fields we want to see. Like maybe we don't do suites and sub collections. We don't really want to add our acquisition notes. Whatever it is, you could go through, unselect, and those will then be removed from your data entry portal. This section down here is used for exporting your specimens. So if you want to export a spreadsheet of your specimens, a lot of people I've found don't necessarily trust online places. They feel they could go away or whatever their concerns are. It's a good way to have a backup copy of your information. So you can go through, grab the fields that you feel are valuable, and then just drag them over to the column on the left. And slowly but surely you can have exactly how you want it exported. I also have the ability to generate custom labels built. So with the custom label generator, we see a preview of the label right here at the top of the page. So you can define your layout. There's a number of things here, like the background image. If you have, maybe it's a cute little rock, or in my scenario, this part here where it says the collection of Ryan Klockner, as well as this little crystal icon in the background, that's all part of a background image that I uploaded. So then from there, I can overlay my layers. And this looks complicated, but it's really not. And just kind of walking through these, you can specify the card dimensions. So it's height and width. So, and you can play with them a little bit to figure out exactly how you want that to lay out, your sizes and everything else. You can do an outer border, an inner border. So, you know, you can select your color that you want or the width. So how thick you want it. And then the next one is the number of rows that we're going to display. So we see here, I have this 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. So I could change that, you know, scroll up just a little bit. If I change that to 4, you'll see it just added that 4th row onto the bottom. And you're also going to see we can configure the values by row, and these will have little hints to help you fill in what you need to. So for that first row here, right now it has 1 column. So we could go to 2 columns, and then we can set the column width here as like a 40, 60. And you'll see up here now there's this first column here, it's set to 40, the second is to 60. So you can walk through, the font sizes work the same way, alignment, you can choose which font you want, and you can do that per line. And then once you have it looking the way you want, you can then just drag and drop columns on wherever you want them. Obviously some of these, I'm probably not going to put them in that order, but it's all drag and drop as to exactly how you want it. And there are some fields like the title that is literally a text field, so you can type in exactly how you want it to display. So like with mine, I do the title, I do the locality name, and then I have the identifier normally in the right corner, but I just screwed with my settings. So I'm not actually going to save these because I don't want to actually change my labels. But that's how that would work. And if we go back to our specimens over on the right, you can filter out what you're seeing below. So we'll filter it out to I brought my an Amazonite specimen down for part of this, and it's going to be this first guy right here. But so you can filter it down like that. You can filter it by specimens that you haven't printed yet, which then makes it easy to figure out which specimens you actually have to create cards for without creating duplicates. So I could say not printed, but all of mine are, so I won't actually do that because nothing will show up. And then it just, you click create labels and it spits out your labels in the sheet, just like I had it set up in that profile. The next thing here is create QR codes. And this came from a discussion that I had on, I think it was in the Young Mineral Collectors group. And it had to do with how a lot of the old-timey collectors would put a little whiteout. Maybe some people still do it. I don't see it as much though. Put a little whiteout on the back of the specimen and write a number on it. So the concept was, let's take that concept and bring it to the next level. So if we do create QR codes, it's going to do what we have it filtered to, and it creates, I'm sure you guys have seen these. If you're not familiar, these you can scan with your phone, and I have these at 1 centimeter. So I'm actually going to turn off my screen share. If I can figure out where it went. Bear with me just a second. I'm going to turn off screen share, and I'm going to show my screen. So here's that Amazonite we were, oh, it's disappearing. Hold it in front of me. And if we look, I have the label on the bottom, and you can see there's my fingernail right next to it. So it's roughly a 1 centimeter square. I'm getting my phone out, and what I will do, I turn it around. Let's see here. It's kind of hard to do with while holding the phone, and let's see. So it pops up, asks if I want to go to the web page. I click it, and it's going to pull up. It's kind of wonky on here. The profile on my phone gives the image of the unit, information about the unit, or the specimen. So some of the size, the title, all that information. And where I want that to go next would be if I go to a show, I find this specimen, I see it has the code, I scan it with my phone, there will actually be a little link on there that says claim this specimen. And if you click that link, it'll actually take you to a page where you can request ownership of that specimen. And it's a complex URL, so you're not going to guess that URL and find it accidentally. You would have to have the specimen and actually scan it in order to find it. So the idea is that since you have to have it in hand in order to scan it, you would go in, you'd click claim, it would send a claim request to the current owner, and that way it tracks, it creates a digital trail for that specific specimen, so that the history gets preserved and follows it wherever it goes. And then we'll go in, click profile. So all the information is here. One thing that I'm hoping to do in the near future is a MinDat integration. I have had several conversations with Jolyon and some of the members, excuse me, of his team. And I'm hoping to get it to where, like right now, you'll see this one actually has a MinDat profile. But what would be nice is if, like right now in my system, you have to type in the locality information each time you want to add a specimen. My plan, and I've had positive conversations, is to do an auto suggest based on the MinDat info. So you could start typing in Dreamtime Mine, and it would pull up the Dreamtime Mine profile and automatically set up the profile for you. In the meantime, I did build the ability to copy a specimen. So like if I have, like I went collecting last weekend up in Herkimer County, and I brought home a bunch of Herkimers. So instead of having to fill out the entire profile for the entire thing, I could just do make a copy, go in, all of the information is there. All you got to do is just change the profile image and any, you know, your dimensions, your weight, and it will create the copy of it pretty quickly. Let's see. So does anybody have, before I go into club stuff for the software, does anybody have any questions specific to this portion?
Hi, this is Mike Pabst. How do you add the photos?
So adding the photos, what I've done, oh, and I've spoken for like 10, 15 minutes and I haven't even mentioned this yet. The basic version of the software is free. So it gives you, allows you to enter 365 specimens. And then there's an upgrade for $5 will give you, oh, the free version, you only upload one specimen. It's a cover image like this. So it's right here. So literally you just click, select the image and add it. With the upgraded version, you can upload additional images. So there is the ability to have more. Like I know some people want to have all angles, but it's kind of hard to host a large site for free. So this keeps it relatively small from a server perspective, having one image and just information about the unit. Any other questions?
Yes, we actually have one in the chat. It says, it's from Ken Rock, and it asks, can we use the software solely offline for our private collection? In other words, can we buy it outright and get updates when available?
No, not at this time. It is all web-based. Yeah, unfortunately, it's designed to be web-based, so it's not a cut and dry, you know, give you a copy of it and let you run with it. And if we were to work something out, it would give you complete access to the entire code base, which would then make it very difficult for me to deploy updates. So at this point, no, but I am looking at trying to create an offline app version. But that's going to be a little while down the road. And that app version would basically be one that would be stored locally that would synchronize with the web version. Any other questions? All right. So the next part is really what I'm more excited about building out more. Let's see, make sure I didn't skip anything. All right, so if you're a club admin, and I say admin, but it could be anyone for the club, you know, president, vice president, treasurer, you name it, you would have access to the club at different levels. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to edit the Friends of Mineralogy New Jersey club, which is my club that I belong to here in New Jersey. And you'll see over here on the right, we have the club board, and you have admin. I have myself in there. And then you got Dave Shapiro, and I haven't filled the rest of them out, largely because this is for testing purposes. But you'll see it has a checkbox underneath each one as to whether or not they have access to edit the club. And that would be the club information like the dues, mailing address, the normal meeting address, social media, logo, club name, and then I give a version of the website. So you'll see here geology365.com subdomain. So basically, If you type in fomnj.geology365.com, it will pull up a website, and it's based off of the profile as the club manages it within this site. So if I click on the website info tab, you'll see there's a number of things. You can change the accent color, which this here is the actual site itself. So right now we have this dark blue as the accent color, but it's a color wheel where you can literally select whatever color you want to be your accent color. And then there's a number of things, and it kind of walks you through setting it up. Real simple stuff. So your home page, you have your intro blurb 1, 2, and 3. And it would be a header, intro text, and then an image. And that corresponds to this background image, this header text, and then the text right below it. And you'll see 1, 2, and 3. So you can kind of, it's real, you know, you can see exactly what you need to change. The text that's in there is default, but obviously it'll change as soon as you update. And then an about blurb, meetings blurb, field trip blurb, rock show blurb. And then you can upload your images as well. And as we scroll down the page, there's the about text, there's the meeting, field trip, and rock show blurbs. And it allows you to completely customize those as well. It then gives you the about page, so you can do general about information, a mission statement, club history, code of ethics. And then that will create your about us page, which is right here, and just drops it right on down the page. The next part you may have noticed over here on the right, it says upcoming events on the 19th. This is a real thing. We actually do have one of our online meetings on Friday. But it's also listed right at the top on the dashboard, and it'll highlight the next 3 events that your club has upcoming. So there, you know, you could have 1, 2, and 3 going across the top. Also down at the bottom of the page, it will list past events. So it'll kind of give, I think I do the last 3 events that the club has done. And those you can click to go back to that January 2020 meeting and actually see its page, what happened in it. And this kind of stuff from a club perspective, it all helps with search engine optimization. For those that aren't familiar, it's basically when somebody goes to Google and types in Virginia mineral clubs, this type of content might help them find your site. And then the more unique stuff you have on there, like I don't know that people are randomly going and Googling for, you know, this particular topic, but if they do, you have a chance at ranking. They can find your club, and obviously you get more traffic that way. Let's see. The event management is all done over from the menu. So you see we have events listed here. And clicking on events, I see all of the past events that I have access to. And so we see that particular event that we saw on the dashboard. And for quick setting up, I built it so that I have myself as an admin for Friends of Mineralogy New Jersey and the North Jersey Mineralogical Society. But as you select redundant data, so Friends of Mineralogy New Jersey and a meeting, you'll see this notice pops up, copy previous Friends of Mineralogy New Jersey meeting. So since most of your meetings are all going to be at the same place, same time, you can do a quick setup just by clicking copy and then just changing the relevant information. So like the event name would change. The event slug, that basically is also for search engine optimization. It creates a URL that is friendly for Google and other search engines to search. So like if we go to this particular event, you'll notice in the URL, I don't know if that's too small or not, but you'll notice the name there is exactly what is on this page. So that helps Google to find relevant content for the person searching as well. Yeah, so there's also, you'll see privacy settings over on the right, only visible to members. Basically, I know our club in particular, we have a number of collecting events specifically that we are not allowed to broadcast. We can't share it on the internet, our website. And so I made it so that, number one, you can choose whether or not you want to show it on your website. And number two, if they have to be a logged in member in order to see it. So you could show it on the website and only to members. The rest of it, it's all kind of, you know, basic information. If the event has a URL, phone number, etc. If we change it to a field trip, these change a little bit. So number of attendees, if there's a fee involved, what tools are recommended, safety information. So that way, when the members come and they're going to see where you're going digging this weekend, they can actually go in and see what tools they need to bring, how much money they need to bring for fees, and if there is a cap. I know a lot of the places that we dig, there's a limit to the number of people that can go. And this will actually track as users come in and they find an event. I will go to the event page. They would actually find the event like this. So it's a read-only view. They can see the information, when it is, where it is, and then they can respond to the event as to whether they're going, not going, or they're thinking about it. So you can start to track attendance for who's going to go to the trip. And then if you're starting to meet your maximum, you know, if there's only 20 people allowed, how close are we to that number? To take it a little bit further, actually I kind of skipped. I built in the ability to manage membership as well. So as an admin, I can go in, I can add a new membership for someone, fill out their information. You know, it's all basic info. This comes from the club's profile. If you happen to remember that section when we went through it, but just basic information about signing up. And then going forward, we can see the list of members in the club. And so we can apply dues for that person. So as an admin, I receive dues from Angela, family membership, $30, and then it'll give you current year and next year. So if she's prepaying, I can select next year, and she's not going to show up as needing to pay dues for another 2 years if I apply her dues that way. And I think it'll give you a warning. Yeah, so payment is due for 30 plus, isn't due for 30 plus days. Are you sure you want to apply a payment now? So basically just kind of, it'll let you pay early, but it's going to give you a warning just to let you know that you're about to. Future development for this, I would like to integrate it with PayPal and allow the club members to keep up with their dues online. Potentially set up a recurring payment if they're up for it. But those ideas are still being explored. I feel like people would probably be more prone to keeping up with their dues if it was either automatic or they could do it from wherever they are. Because like our club in particular, you know, I know how many people go to the meetings on a regular basis. And I know that the number of people that are actually club members are double, triple, or more that number. So let's make it easy for everyone to pay money. The next area is the field trip planner. And this is something that I started to work through with the field trip planner for our club, which is also our president, Dave Shapiro, if he's made it back onto the call. And so he kind of was running through and talking about what goes into planning a season's worth of field trips, and what his current process was. And then I reached out in a number of groups on Facebook, looking for people that are field trip coordinators to kind of get their take on it as well. Because obviously, if I only take a sample size of one to learn about how he plans his season's worth of trips, that's great. I could make a program specific to every single individual, or I could talk to a bunch of people and find out how it really goes. So the first thing I wanted to do is start a database of locality data specific to planning trips. So the idea is let's get those sheets of paper out of your folder that you've been stuffing in there every year for the last 20, 30 years, and let's get it digitized so it benefits more than just you and the, what happens when something happens to you and that folder disappears or whatever. So the idea would be we create profiles for each locality that our club collects at, and we fill out all the information about it, who the contact is for when we want to go set up a trip there, the basic information about it, and you'll see the managing club. And again, that's going to be only clubs that you have access to, not all of the clubs. And then you can set up, like if they have a URL, again, here's the slug that is going to be URL friendly to help it rank in search results. If it does have a MinDat ID, operating hours, the closest address, because as we all know, it's not necessarily addressable, if that's a word. It could just be the Latin long coordinates. What minerals you can expect to find there. I didn't show this on the mineral page, so I'll go ahead and do it here. These are all auto-suggest fields. If you find a mineral that is not in there, it will automatically add it to the database, specific for you, because obviously some people may not agree on names. So I have used, I forget which list. I'm drawing a complete blank on it, but it's a list that supposedly was well respected. It's got well over 5,000 minerals in it, so I think it'll cover most people. But these are auto suggest, so it's, you start typing, and then you can use your cursor or your mouse to click it, select it, or just finish typing it and it will auto select. Scheduling window. So if the person each year is like, hey, I need you between January 1st and May 31st is when you have to schedule your trip to come here. So it just kind of gives you that window when you need to plan. And then a description of the location, directions, and again, safety information, recommended tools. And all of this information that you're seeing here, it may sound a little bit redundant to what's on the events page, but that's because when you create your season's worth of trips, at the end of it all, it'll automatically create those trips and place them on your club's page. Permits and fees. Are there permits needed? If you select it, just a generic type in information about what permits you need to get. Club fees, member fees, other fees, insurance information, and then recommended hotels and restaurants in the area. And if you want to upload an image of that locality. So once you have your localities filled out, you would come in and you would select the field trip planner. You would create, so I'm going to just piggyback off of my existing 2020 season is the one that I've already created, but otherwise you could click add new. And then, so there you go, managing club, 2020 season, and then localities for the season. So you can see I already added these 4, but then we'll go ahead and add this past weekend. We went to Reminiscent Brook, so I put that one in for our test purposes. So we can add it to the plan. You see it drops it in here. And then you see with these other ones, I've already added some potential dates. So you can come through, say June 6th, the 20th, and we'll go into July. Nobody's going to collect on the 4th, but we'll select it, 11th, 25th. And then it starts to create that list of dates for you. And then all of these localities, anywhere that I have them, I try to give the ability to click to see those details again, just because you never know where you're going to be when you need it. So you can click to see those details. And once you've selected all of your location, you've had your conversations about potential dates as to when you're going to go, then you actually narrow it down and select the dates and when you want to add them to your club's calendar. So you'll see here, club activities. So it automatically drops in things that the club has scheduled in the system already. So we can see those and we can try and avoid those as we're selecting our dates. And then as we come through, so we got May 16th, which is in the past. But so I have that selected, the 23rd for Trilobite Ridge. I have the 27th for National Limestone Quarry, and then the 26th for CK Williams. But let's say we wanted to change it up. You just unselect there, select that one, and you're good to go. And I realize I never hit submit on the last page to save reminiscent to our plan. But once you have done that, and we submit this time, it's going to take you to the Finalize Plan page, and it will show you the schedule, exactly how you have it lined up, the dates, days until you go. So obviously these 3 are in the past now. So it's minus 32 days. And you can go right down the list. Again, click information to get info about it. And then once you're finished, you just click Finalize Plan. It automatically adds it all to your website, and you're ready to go. So that's where the software currently is today. I have a little bit to talk about for future development, but before I get into that, if anybody has questions about the club aspects of the software, feel free. All right. Then we can hop into future development. So there's a number of things that I want to do real quick from the collection side. There's not a whole lot more I want to do with that. One thing I do want to do is build out the ability to share your collection. And by sharing, it could be, depending on what access you want to give, like for me, obviously, if something happens to me, my wife should know what my collection is worth. So I can add my wife as an admin level or read and write access to my account. So she can get in, she can get prices, she can search information, and she'll be able to pull up all the information she might need when it comes time to sell the collection and all the vultures swoop in. I also have in here the ability to share individual specimens versus an entire collection. And with that route, I'm thinking more towards vendor tools. So people that are looking to sell specimens. Obviously, I can't leave the software largely for free forever. So my plan is to potentially look at integrating some vendor tools. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with that first, whether it's, like I said, some vendor related things. I know that website MinFind went down, I don't know, a month or two ago. I've been approached about recreating that. But I've been told that the plan is to resurrect it from a backup copy from like 2016. So obviously I don't want to spin my wheels if it's just going to come back. But then the other side of it is tools for rock shows. the same way I showed you a website that's specific to clubs, the idea is that you could create a website specific for your rock show. And you could have people come in, pre-purchase tickets, get information, utilize a vendor sign-up tool. You know, so if you have people come in to set up and you have a maximum of 30 spots available, you can configure all your availability, let people come in, and let the vendors pay through there to sign up to set up, things along those lines. But I also want to create a public search tool that is publicly searchable. Right now, most of the site is not publicly searchable. And so I would like to create something that is if you're looking for fluorite, you can go in and look generically at fluorite all day long. And then if you see one you like from a specific locality, you could click into that specimen, select its locality, and then start looking at fluorite specifically from that locality. But I haven't gone too far down that route yet, just because I haven't really, outside of a couple Facebook posts, I haven't really pushed anyone into using the software. I haven't really marketed it, so I don't have a huge following yet. I think I'm approaching 200 people, but 200 people does not create an encyclopedia's knowledge of specimens. So I'm waiting until that collection gets larger. And one thing you may or may not have noticed, in anticipation of building that, I'm just going to go grab a specimen here. I have built, you'll see sharing permissions, public or private. So you can specify whether or not you want your collection to be indexable and searchable by people on the internet. So those are all things that I'm looking at doing from the club side. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot planned. From the club side is where I think things could get a lot more interesting. The next thing that I'm planning on working on is a newsletter utility to allow clubs to create a newsletter that auto fills in some fluff. So based on the information the club puts into the site, their events, their rock shows, their collecting opportunities, whatever those are, the newsletter itself will fill in the appropriate places. And then I've been talking to a number of people that have established websites that have articles on given specimens, locality data, individual collectors, some different things like that. And they already have the articles written. So the idea would be that from within the platform, the club could either have it auto-select articles for them based on ones that the club hasn't had published in their newsletter before, or allow them to override that and select, this month's newsletter, I want these articles in it. So have it auto fill some fluff, have it auto create the layout, and really make it easy for a club that's not tech savvy to have a professional newsletter that's easy to maintain. Another item that I have on my list is discussion boards. And so with those, I would look at it as allowing clubs to manage their own discussion boards through their websites. So, they could add whatever they want to talk about. If they want to talk about specific things going on in the community, if they want to talk about, leading up to a collecting opportunity, they could, just a place to BS, whatever the case is, the clubs can do whatever they want with it. But then I would want to create some club leader specific boards. So if you remember when we looked at the clubs, there was the section on the lower right where it had me listed as an admin, Dave as the president. The idea would be that there would be some club leader specific boards. So there would be a president discussion board. So we could have multiple presidents from clubs around the country conversing with each other. Same thing with vice presidents, treasurers, secretaries. So people that have similar responsibilities within a club have their own discussion boards to bounce ideas off each other or just general conversation topics. And then the last item that I really look at bringing to the clubs are education centers, and basically allowing clubs to write their own informational content that the website would basically force them to be well organized and searchable. That when a club could build out a whole educational series on their website, which I know I keep looping back to this, but SEO, search engine optimization, is a very important thing for your web presence. So any unique content that you can come up with and put on your site is hugely important. And that's where a lot of this stuff that I'm looking at building is going to be helpful for clubs that may not know anything about search engine optimization or that it even exists. But just by maintaining the information on the site, it kind of forces them into writing SEO-friendly content. And so these education centers could be on whatever the case, whatever they want to talk about, whether it's mineral preparation, specimens, care, whatever the case. It's their board to do with it how they want to do it. The last few items, I already mentioned vendor tools. Some of the vendor tools, other things that I'd thought about is like a storefront, potential auction type of a system. But those are redundant and a lot of them are out there. Let's see, talked about rock shows. The last thing is that I want to add is mapping tools. I think it would be really cool if I could say, I'm leaving New Jersey and I'm driving to New Mexico from this date to that date, and then have the software spit out a number of opportunities along my route. So whether it's club meetings that happen to be going on when I'm going past, or maybe there's a club that is going digging somewhere close to my route, but basically just create a map that you can look at and find things to do either at your destination along the way, and be able to just have that to plan by. So yeah, that's kind of the future of where I see this going. And I will open it up for any other questions anybody might have or suggestions. I'm very open to criticism. I've been a software developer for a long time now. And I know that you don't always hit it right on the first try. So I'm very open to criticism. If there's things that you see that could be done better, room for improvement, features I may have missed, not thought about, I would love to hear all of them.
We actually do have a question in the chat here, which was from Jennifer. And she said, one idea that you could implement would be, could you make it so that people can sort their specimens in different collections? Like if they have a focus or inherit a collection or a specific collection or have different types of collections, like micros, fossils, minerals, fluorescents, can you maybe split those up or have specific things? Kind of like a Google folder that people can label and sort their specimens under.
Yeah, so I kind of have that. I kind of backburnered it probably a little too long. But you see I have some basic search options up here. I could definitely look to add more to this. This particular search right here is a universal search on what's visible on the page. So like I could type in, I don't know, we'll say, if I can spell, like cave and rock. So start typing cave and rock, and we can see all of my cave and rock specimens. Oh, and clicking on specific units will actually blow up the picture as well. I didn't click on that earlier. So you can search specific like that. So my thought would be at this point anyways, but I would be open to how you would want to see it handled.
I guess that makes sense though. Like if you had gotten a collection or you see that, you know, this is the Thomas Hale collection that you ended up buying 300 specimens and you put them in there, you can literally search for that specific sub collection within the management.
Yeah,
Okay.
so right here, it's a generic field. So it's not a, like if I wanted to list everything as the Thomas Hale collection, I would have to type it out each time at this point. Or if you're going to add 300 specimens, you're probably going to do it from a spreadsheet, I would think anyways. So copying, pasting into the spreadsheet and then uploading would be a quick way to get it in. But like, let's say I did want to search generically by that suite / sub collection field. Let's see. I can add it to my list of visible fields. We update it, and then go back to specimens, and it's going to add that column in. So you'll see it's now listed there by suite and sub collection. And I don't think I have that listed for any of my specimens, so I can't give you an example. But you could technically then type in Thomas Hale. I probably should have saved it in there to make it show up. But there are ways to do it, but I could make some better user-friendly ways to do it.
I mean, yeah, I was kind of thinking more like kind of how the way Google Drive is set up, where it's like there's a folder and you can go in the folder and like make specimens in that folder and like view only the stuff for like that one folder. And I would just like, because like the big search list, like especially like for people that have a lot of specimens and are like getting to the point where they have to like scroll multiple pages, it's like even if they want to look, like even if they search to like narrow it down, it's still going to be a long list. So it'd just be nice to like separate them into sort of categories that they can view from like a home page or something like that. Like if they click specimens and then they could click on like their fluorescent collection and then view all their fluorescent pieces and only those.
And would you envision having nested folders? So like a folder inside of a folder, or do you envision it being like one level deep?
I mean, I personally don't think I would nest folders, but like there might be some people that want to like have like a micro collection and then like a micro fluorescent collection or like a micro, like it could go different layers for some people, but like I don't think it needs to be super complicated, or like I don't think that's not necessary for me, but other people might be interested in it.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I do have here as well. So like, you know, like your micro mount, miniature, your sizes. I know that's not exactly folders, but assigning attributes. I wonder if it would make sense to auto add things to folders. So like you could create a folder that's called micro mounts that are from locality 5400. Or something along those lines, to where the system kind of adds things to your folders for you automatically based on pre-established criteria. Just a thought. No, but what I would see, based on what you're saying, what I would probably have here is like a storage folder or something, and have a drop down of your folders. I would probably build it to be nested just for future support. And then see the list and then have add new in there, and you could add it, you know, add a new folder on the fly or add it to an existing. So I'll look into that.
I did want to ask a question for like people who may be leaders in organizations or are familiar with the leadership of their organizations that are watching this now or watching it at a later date. For those that may be interested in utilizing some of these club features as of right now, how does that work with them creating an account? Can they create an account for free, or is there a specific subscription for club tools?
So what they'll do, create a free account. Let me log out here. You just go to geology365.com. Right from the dashboard, I try to make it fairly visible right there, create a free account. There's a number of other places you'll see it, but it's literally you just fill it out. You'll receive your confirmation email, confirm your email, and then once your account's created, reach out to me and let me know what club you're associated with, what your role is there, and then I'll get you set up as the initial admin. And then once you're the admin for the club, you can add other members to that club. So it kind of gives you control to then add whomever you want. I should also mention, I kind of dropped this out. I've built support for language packs. It defaults to English, but you can change it to whatever you want. And then from within your profile, you can actually select your preferred language. It's one of the fields in your profile that you can specify which language you want the site translated into, and it will change all the fields. The translation is all done with Google Translate. I've been told it's good enough to get by, but I'm not going to get an A in the language classes. I have had a number of people volunteer to audit those and kind of come up with better language packs. So some of them are better than others, but it's really hit or miss.
I'm pretty sure. Are there any other questions as of right now? Like I said, I will provide Ryan's information and I'll have a link to this because it will go up on the YouTube channel. So everyone will be able to reach out to him for any further questions or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm very approachable. I'm easily found on Facebook. My email is probably everywhere at this point. So if you think of questions after the call, or maybe you're just a little bit shy, feel free to reach out afterwards. We can either have a phone call or correspond via email.
Hey Ryan, this is Jim Doran.
Hey Jim.
I was a past president and I was a past field trip director for the Richmond Club here in Richmond, Virginia. And the field trip section would have been a great help to me. Like you said, I was to carry around the valise of papers with all the field trip things and all the information, all the maps. That would have been great if we had something like that.
Oh, and one thing I didn't mention when I was talking about it, the idea behind that too is that it's shared knowledge. So the knowledge that my club gains benefits you, and the knowledge that your club gains benefits me. So it makes the field trip planner's job that much easier.
Right.
Yeah, when Dave was telling me what a pain it was, and he's just starting to go through the process of what it takes. I'm like, Dave, this is awful, man. There's got to be an easier way.
I thought that myself many times.
Well, hopefully. So I told Dave that I'm willing to start taking over, doing it with him for a little while, and then if he decides to hand it off, that I would volunteer. So I'll learn the headaches that are involved, and this will only benefit. The software will benefit from my experience, hopefully. Anybody else?
What I was going to say is that I think, like, this is fantastic. Thank you so much for being here tonight, because I really enjoyed this, and I know that this is going to be very helpful for people to view at a later date as well that want to kind of look into this. But, you know, as we kind of talk about the future of mineral collecting, the future of the hobby itself, and especially with what happened with COVID-19 and traditional clubs putting themselves in a situation, or being in a situation where they go to physical locations and all of a sudden that stops. And then now we're utilizing virtual systems. We're utilizing all these different tools. You know, years and years of keeping giant binders of field trips and using all this old methods of doing things. It is kind of a time to look at the future and say, how can we make it easier, more accessible, and, you know, help make things that we're doing a little bit easier. So I really appreciate this, because I think, and I know that for myself as the Virginia Mineral Project and Friends of Mineralogy of Virginia, you know, we're wanting to support initiatives like this on trying to bring the community together, talk with one another, find ways to make things more interactive, find ways to bring things into the modern era, and try to, you know, make things a little bit easier and make things a little bit more accessible, especially for younger communities that will be integrated into these virtual systems from birth. I mean, I know so many kids that literally walk around with cell phones in their hands now. And that's a positive or a negative, but if we're going to look at the future, we have to look at things like this, because this is going to be the future of our hobby. And I mean, and it makes sense.
Oh, excellent.
Ryan, Dave Woolley from Lynchburg, Virginia, past president of Lynchburg Gem and Mineral Society. I want to thank you for the tremendous amount of work you put in this project. And I look forward to getting my club folks to participate through your web available material. And I'm signing off with a word of thanks.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Alrighty, well, if that is it, like I said, I will be getting this video up on our YouTube channel so that you can view that, go back over it again. I will send out Ryan's email in that, so if you want to reach out to him or ask any further questions, you can. And, you know, we will be continuing to work with Ryan and finding ways to promote this and finding ways to work together to make this more accessible for people in the community. So, you know, as we're coming together with this Virginia Mineral Project and Friends of Mineralogy Virginia, and having these discussions over the last couple months, I felt that this would be a great way to see what we can accomplish together as we have everyone at the table. So thank you very much, Ryan. I know, you know, you put a lot of work into this, and we really appreciate you coming out here tonight and talking with us.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you very much. And for those of you that are interested, there is the Lynchburg Club meeting after this, but there are also the board meeting for Friends of Mineralogy for those of you that are on the board. So we continue to work together, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Hey, Ryan, I have a quick question for you, buddy.
Yeah.
How do you get that cool background? I was in a meeting the other day and someone had outer space behind them. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, so the little Zoom toolbar that you should have somewhere on your screen, probably down on the bottom, next to where it says stop video, you'll see a little down arrow.
Oh, yeah.
If you click that down arrow, you'll see choose virtual background.
Oh.
Yeah, I felt my background was fitting.
There you
go. Oh, I like how your hair disappeared too.
Or I could be in outer space. Oh, I like this.
I always thought you weren't very down to earth, Dave.
Thank you. See, I just learned something. Or I could be on the Golden Gate Bridge, I guess. Wherever. Oh, that's neat.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I'm going to sign off. I appreciate your time. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you
Thanks
again.
Thanks, guys.